gotta say, it looks like it's a grand time out in the bullpen today. And are those Grant's little ones or Danny's little ones? I think those are Danny's kids out there.
Those are Danny's kids for sure.
Yeah, Danny's, cause yeah, Grant's are younger. Danny's two boys are here, and they are just constantly playing catch. And I want to get in the rotation, but we're working over here. I don't know what they do over at 106.7 The Fan, but we're hard at work. We're making content.
Yeah, we are.
We're making radio.
Yeah, we are.
We're reading comments.
Yeah, we are.
We're not supposed to do that.
We tried to warn them. They didn't listen.
Yeah!
Every week, the Hoffman Show goes into the belly of the beast.
We read those comments, baby.
Never read the comments.
One of these days, Anthony, we'll be on the same page. One of these days, our communication will be as good as the Commander's secondary in May and June.
I was agreeing with you. I wasn't expecting you to take a left turn so abruptly.
You gotta have some anticipation.
Yeah. I was really into it, though. That's probably what it was.
You were like,
yeah.
you were agreeing.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that was my cue to hit the button. What a time. What a time. It's Never Read the Comments, brought to you by
Nobody, Craig.
But it's available for sponsorship if you want to give us a call. Here's how it works. You leave your comments on our segments on YouTube. We cut up the show into digestible pieces, segments at a time. We post it up on YouTube. You leave your comments. We read them, even though we probably shouldn't. And boy, was this a week, Anthony, where I wish I didn't read the comments. We'll get to some Commander stuff in a second, but the big comment this week, unsurprisingly, was around Caitlin Clark and the Olympic team. And it was on our videos and the short that we made around David Aldridge coming on and giving an 8.5-minute answer on the absurdity of all different kinds of people who are upset for all different kinds of reasons about Caitlin Clark not making the initial Olympic roster for Team USA. Some of y'all, it was just an easy, or some of the commenters, I should say, it was just an easy hide this user, don't let you comment anymore because you said things that were out of bounds. But there's a couple, I will try to engage with a couple of good faith arguments that I disagree with because that's healthy and that's what this is about. We're allowed to have differing opinions. I'm supposed to have strong opinions. That's what they pay me for. And I do on some stuff. Other stuff, I'm like, I don't know why people are so upset about this. This one, though, I understand. And I just think there's some misunderstandings on what David has tried to say, what I have tried to say, and where some of the people watching the game who are big fans of Caitlin especially are. So I'll start off with Benjamin Obi, who said, every time a person who is only there to see Caitlin Clark watches a WNBA game, there are 9 other players on the court who they might also end up liking. Clark is a potential gateway for a casual to be a genuine WNBA fan. I think this is correct. And this is exactly what happened with Tiger Woods in golf, right? There's a lot of people that watched golf, myself included, for Tiger Woods when Tiger was at the peak of his powers. Some people stayed because they found they really actually liked the golf. And there were other golfers that they liked. I did not. I did not help grow the game of golf. I temporarily helped grow the game of golf. I inflated the game of golf for some short period of time, but I actually did not help the long-term growth of the game outside of whatever money that I may have contributed by higher ratings, whatever golf, I would play a little bit. I still do play a little bit. That really doesn't have anything to do with Tiger Woods. So there is some added value of my temporary viewership of the PGA Tour. But by the way, look where the PGA Tour is now in a post-Tiger world, where they're in like both litigation and a partnership with Live Golf. Like golf's not in a good place. So the idea that it's like, oh, she could be the Tiger Woods for golf. I'm like, not if it's going to end where golf ended. Golf's not doing the best right now. So there's that. But yes, this is true. And I hope that people who watch the W watch Caitlin face Arika Gumbawale and be like, damn, she's good too. And maybe they watch some Dallas Wings games or whatever. Because I am in the camp that has a genuine interest in growing the sport. But as Jake Hubbs, there's 2 B's and 3 Z's, Ant. So I think I said that right. Jake Hubbs says, people don't have to like a sport if they don't want to. They want to watch Caitlin Clark. It's insane to be mad at people for liking a player and wanting to follow her. And this to me is actually my biggest gripe with the current conversation. And where people who are mad online, and that's what I'm reacting to here because it is never read the comments, are upset with David being like, you could do other stuff if you wanted to grow the game, and then being like, I don't want to do the other stuff. No one is saying you have to. All we're saying is there are 2 paths here. You can be genuinely interested in growing the game of women's basketball, which means you're going to have to do more than watch Caitlin Clark. Or you can absolutely enjoy the hell out of Caitlin Clark because, my God, what an enjoyable basketball player. The way she plays, the flair, the step back threes, she's one of one in the sport. And there is nothing wrong with appreciating her talent. Where it gets twisted, and what I think is annoying for those of us that have been around the sport for a long time and genuinely would like to see it grow, is the people who are just here, if you will, for Clark, thinking that the entire sport should bend to them because they're more important than everybody else. And I don't say this in a mean way. I don't say this in a way to say one group is greater than or better than the other. It's just you're not. Because you're not going to be around for the long term. And there's a responsibility for the sport to try to build in a more sustainable way. And specific to Clark and the Olympic team, they have a responsibility to do the job in a genuine way. If I told you without the details, a generic statement, the United States can either put together what it believes is the best Olympic team with a combination of its best players and veterans who have know-how, who have played internationally, who understand that game, or they can do a marketing bit. 100% of the people complaining and 100% of people, period, would be like, we're the United States. We play to win. Let's go. Now, if you disagree on a basketball merit of Clark versus another player, there are some arguments to be made. But these are players that have played for USA Basketball, been through World Cup cycles. They've been building this team for longer than most people have known about Caitlin Clark. And that's just a reality of how the Olympic cycles work over 4 years. And to pretend like they should do marketing when we don't do this with any other Olympic sport is just disingenuous. And all that David Aldridge was asking people to do is stop pretending. Stop pretending like you care about the women's game when realistically you just want to watch your favorite player play. And that's understandable. From a viewing standpoint, from an intrigue standpoint, I also want Caitlin Clark on the Olympic team. I think she would be tremendously fun to watch. She is my favorite WNBA player probably to watch. I enjoy her game tremendously. But I also understand why USA Basketball did what they did. And I firmly, on like a principled level, believe that it is not their responsibility to do marketing, especially on behalf of the WNBA, because they're not the WNBA. It's a different entity. Last but not least, I talked about this earlier, so I'm not going to belabor this point. I actually don't think this is that much of a missed opportunity. The league itself will grow if people are still interested in Clark and they'll watch Fever games. There's not a single extra ticket sold in Paris to anyone. I know I have a women's basketball ticket for the Olympics. I could sell it in a heartbeat if I wanted to. I also would have a hard time buying more. Those tickets, they're the Olympic Games. They're going to sell out. It's not like leaving her off the WNBA All-Star Game or leaving her off of the Fever being like, hey, sorry, Caitlin's not playing tonight. That's going to implode your ticket price for a WNBA game. Different scenario. It's the Olympic Games in a foreign country. They're going to sell out. And from a TV standpoint, will they get some amount less viewers? Yeah, probably. But the number of games that they play are not significant in terms of the long-term growth of the game. So I actually think on the merits, the marketing argument is kind of silly. It's just a lot of fans who are fans of Caitlin Clark for one reason or another going, I want to watch my favorite player and I'm upset she didn't make the team. And it's okay to be upset. Just don't pretend like some great disservice was done to the game when it's really about your own personal feelings. Don't claim to be the saviors of women's basketball and then be upset when the actual sport, the thing that's existed for a long time and had to fight and scratch and claw for so much. So many people have put in so much work to get even where it is, where Caitlin Clark has the platform to then jump off of to the stardom that she has. Don't come in and pretend like they don't matter, because that's not how any of this works. That is a misread of the situation. And especially don't proclaim to care about them when you clearly don't. That's all that's being said. You don't get it both ways. So, do I think that actually probably changed anyone's mind, Anthony? Probably not. People just want to be mad on the internet, which is kind of the premise of the segment, so I get it. But I do think it's important to at least try to engage people who are engaging this in good faith, to say, no one's actually mad at you for being a big Caitlin Clark fan. Go buy your Fever gear, buy her Iowa jersey if you want, do whatever you want. It's just, don't proclaim to be a women's basketball fan when you're actually a Caitlin Clark fan and then not do any of the things that actually support the game. Don't try to have it both ways. That's all I'm saying. That's all David was saying. He said it in rant form. I tried to be calm. Different strokes for different folks.
That was very calm, very cool, and it sounded very collected.
We love when that happens in this segment, because sometimes I lose my bleeping mind. All right, to the Commanders for the back half of Never Read the Comments here. Johnny Cheshire, 6855, apparently new to the program. Johnny, welcome. He goes, heard you, Craig, asking Dan Quinn some questions in his interview recently. Craig didn't know you were in the media room like that. Good for you, man. I guess it's probably a good every once in a while, Anthony, to remind folks my path here, I guess. For those that don't know, for those that are new to the program on the radio, on the internet, on wherever, I was on the beat. Like the segment we do every day at 5 o'clock for the regular radio audience who listens at 5 o'clock, we call it Not My Beat because it used to be my beat. Like, that's the joke. It's a funny haha, like, it's not my beat anymore. But someone's. Let's get them in on the top story of the day. But my first job in DC was working the Commanders beat for, at the time, ESPN 980, which was owned by a company called Red Zebra Broadcasting, which was owned by a man named Dan Snyder. They didn't find the reporter position very helpful. So after my first year there, they hired me in August and then they cut the position in January. That wasn't great, but it did lead to me coming into this building at 106.7 The Fan as a part-timer and then ultimately on the beat full-time. For 3 years, I was on the Commanders beat. So I was for the better part of 5 years between the stuff I was doing for the Fan and part-time and then full-time and then the 980 first stint, I was on the Commanders beat. So yeah, I know my way around Ashburn quite well. I'm very used to being in press conferences. I don't just sit in a studio. I go places. I've been at minicamp the last 3 days. As the kids say, we do this, Anthony. I does this.
Yes, you do, sir.
Do the kids actually say that? I don't think the kids say that. They kind of do.
In basketball, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah.
Yeah, you drive, get an AM1, pound your chest. I do this.
Yep. I lift. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm him.
I lift weights. It's one of my favorite TikToks / shorts / whatevers of all time is the Joe Hayden mic'd up I lift weights.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep. And then he gets
if
put
you're
on his
unfamiliar,
butt.
he's like, Joe Hayden's mic'd up. He's like, I lift weights. And he gets a good little block in, gets a little shot in on somebody. Like 3 snaps later, he just gets absolutely thrown out the club.
Yeah.
He's like, ha, damn. But as for the actual Commanders and things that happened that I saw out there, Big Papa Grizzly. I don't make them up, Anthony. I just read what's on the page. Big Papa Grizzly says, the only way Jaden Daniels doesn't start week 1 is if he is severely hurt or if he turns out to be a total fraud. The latter has already been ruled out, in my opinion. The reason I highlighted this comment, the reason that I picked this as one to respond to is because I actually really think that last part is true and important. Like, I think Jaden Daniels has already proven, like, he's got the stuff. Doesn't mean he's going to be awesome. It doesn't mean that he's not going to bust out. It doesn't mean that, like, ultimately this could look a little bit silly in years from now if he doesn't pan out to be a good NFL quarterback. But I think if he turns out to be not be a good NFL quarterback, it's going to be because it's really hard to be a good NFL quarterback. This dude's work ethic and his processing ability and his approach, his mentality, his openness, his leadership, like, there is a ton of substance to Jaden Daniels. And I think early on in like, I'm going to pick on RG3. Sorry, Robert. Sorry, Bob. But early on in RG3's tenure, there were some folks that kind of looked at him like, I don't know about this dude. And obviously, his rookie year, he was tremendous as a player. And you kind of like, oh, okay, I guess never mind. I missed out on that. It's my bad. And then the whole all in for week 1 thing happens, and you're like, oh no, those initial inclinations might have had some truth to them in terms of how he went about his business compared to Jaden Daniels. All you hear is how great this dude is in the building. The 5:45 a.m. showing up, his relationships that he's built with guys like Bobby Wagner and Jeremy Reeves on the defensive side of the ball. Like, there is just so much substance to Jaden Daniels. And so the idea that you get him in the building and like, oh God, we may have made a mistake. The most classic example of that is Ryan Leaf with the Chargers. He stops in Las Vegas on his way to San Diego from the draft, and the Chargers are like, oh no, we have made a mistake. We have been fooled in the draft process. I just think the chances of that happening with Jaden Daniels are slim to none. And it's really a question of how good is he going to be, not is he going to succeed or fail. Rix Villarreal says, the composure superpower. It's more of a reporter's cliche. I remember how they used to say the same of Sam Howell, same for the work ethic. A few hits and he is burned, and then go and say about work ethic. Look, playing quarterback is hard in the NFL. It's really, really hard. And it is a position that is reliant on others, both your play caller, your offensive line, your receivers. It is reliant on your own thing and your coaching as well, in terms of not just the play calling, but if you have a good work ethic and you don't have a coach who tells you how to channel that properly, that's different. And you might not actually maximize your own ability. And by the way, Sam Howell, for a good part of last year, was a pretty good quarterback. And so the idea that he's got a good work ethic and he's very composed, and then all of a sudden he's gone, like, yeah, they had the number 2 pick and they could get someone who was more talented and had all those stuff. Quarterback is not a single factor position. Like, we can hold multiple thoughts in our head at once. I might be able to have the composure to play NFL quarterback. Sure as hell don't have the arm, the athleticism, the processing speed, or anything else, but I could have that one thing. Multifactorial. Like, this isn't hard. Yes, we're celebrating something early on in the process. We're like, hey, this is noteworthy. This is a box checked. We like that. But that doesn't mean that the evaluation is done, that everything is written in stone and he's going to the Hall of Fame and the Commanders are going to win 12 Super Bowls in the next 12 years because he's the greatest quarterback ever. Like, there's room in between. So you, Rick Villarreal, can settle down. Last but not least, Hibiscus779 with a question. What I want to know is whether coaches or trainers are allowed to recommend private coaches or training camps to the players for the offseason or between minicamp and training camp, for instance. Obviously, the players share info about good places, people to train at / with, but I wonder what percentage actually do this. I do believe they can make recommendations. They cannot make requirements. by rule because you can't require something during a non-mandatory period. So you definitely cannot be like, hey, Jaden, you have to work with this quarterback coach. But you can absolutely make recommendations. And you'd think about it like former players might be like, hey, this is the guy that I worked with, or a coach like a Ryan Kerrigan might be like, oh, I worked with this guy. I think you'd like him a lot. Or if they're from a certain area or know someone, like it's networking, right? Something that people in DC are so good at. But it's like, hey, where do you live? Oh, you live in LA? Well, here's a guy that I know that one of my former guys worked with that he really liked a lot. You should connect him, or I'll connect you with the player, right? So I'm sure there are limitations. There absolutely can't be requirements, but I'm sure, especially if the players ask, the coaches are not barred or permitted from saying like, yeah, this guy's good. And I would also imagine from the strength and conditioning side, Chad Englehart and his staff, the strength staff, they have guys that they like because they've worked with them in the past with players. And so it's like, oh, hey, yeah, this guy in Tampa is awesome. So if you're going to go down there, check out his facility. And if he has any questions, he can hit me up. Because I definitely do know from personal experience that there can be contact between the strength coaches and the private coaches to make sure that they're doing right by the player. So like when Lorenzo Alexander was in Buffalo, his trainer, my business partner on my Train with the Best work, Chris Gores, was in contact with the Buffalo guys because he wanted to make sure that Lorenzo was ready for the stuff that he was going to have to do in Buffalo. And so, and also like, they give packets and things like that, hey, if you're looking for a plan, here's what you can do. So there's a lot of options that the team can help with, but ultimately it's on the players to get ready for training camp. And this is a really, really essential part of the calendar for them to do that. When we get back here on the Hoffman Show, that is our never read the comments section. You can leave yours at the Team 980. Some of the questions and comments we read were from the Team 980's page. Some of them were at Craig Hoffman. A lot of the David Aldridge comments left on the brand new Hoffman W Sports page, our home for all of our women's sports content, which, by the way, up there right now, an interview with Washington Spirit CEO Kim Stone. And in mere moments, I will be posting an interview I did earlier today with Spirit defender Gabby Carl as they are marching towards a sellout this weekend at Audi Field against Alex Morgan and the San Diego Wave. So at Hoffman W Sports, if you fancy there, subscribe to any and all of those channels that you would like. But next, live here on the Hoffman Show, our Pick 6 at 6, final one of the spring. 6 biggest things from Dan Quinn today after the Commanders wrapped up minicamp. NBA Finals talk still to come as well here on the Team 980.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.